Hey guys, Anthony here. It is Monday, June 17th, 2024. Today's talk or today's video, I'm going to focus on a couple things. I'll probably title it Possible Election Scenarios. And I made a list this morning of a couple of scenarios that I want to talk about and a couple of points that I want to make that I think have relevance to the future of this country. Um, we could all see that Joe Biden's cognitive ability, his cognitive function. I mean, he's been going downhill for a very long time, and but it is just now, recently, that the media is the left-leaning media is starting to point these things out, and that should tickle the hair on the back of people's necks, because once that starts happening, you know there might be another plan being put into place by these people to bring in another candidate. And that's totally 100% possible. And in fact, that's what a lot of people, a lot of channels on YouTube have been predicting. And it's something I've talked about to friends and family, that I think that Biden is going to be replaced by another person. Now, who that may be. So I wrote down here this morning 7 possible scenarios leading up to the election. So scenario number 1 is the one that's taking place right now. Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, and that goes through to the November elections. So in other words, there's upcoming debates between these two people, these two candidates for president, and that's how it plays out. Scenario number 2, uh, Donald Trump versus um, Michelle Obama as president and Hillary Clinton as her vice president running mate. That's 100% totally possible scenario that Michelle Obama replaces Biden, because she will bring in a lot of votes, because number one, her affiliation with who? Barack Obama, who many still say today is the one pulling the strings for Joe Biden behind the scenes. So if Michelle Obama's elected, she could even say, well, since my husband's been president for so long right now, well, she'll mention the 2 terms he's been president. We could argue how many terms he's actually been president. But a lot of people will go for that because she's married to Barack Obama, and he could be a great advisor behind the scenes. And of course, Hillary Clinton has a lot of popularity with the left as well. So scenario number 2 is definitely something that is viable, I think. Scenario number 3, uh, Donald Trump, and in all these scenarios, Donald Trump is the Republican or conservative candidate. So scenario 3, Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom as her vice president pick. That's another totally viable. Gavin Newsom is very big on, very connected with world leaders, let's put it that way. If you remember, several months ago, he had a visit to China. Uh, Also, the president of China visited California not too long ago, and there was big events hosted there. So Gavin Newsom is somebody definitely that can be in the running for a VP candidate, or possibly even a presidential candidate for the left. Scenario number 4, Donald Trump versus Barack Obama, and then Hillary or Gavin as his vice presidential pick. Why do I say Barack Obama? Isn't it illegal or against the Constitution for a president to serve more than 2 terms? Well, maybe something might happen in the interim between now and November, that Barack Obama may have to step in some type of emergency scenario where he, because of his experience, because of his love for the country, because of his support around the world by various countries, that he step in as the candidate, to save us from sheer and utter disaster. So I put number four, put it as number four on there, and I just wanted to make mention of it because it's definitely something that is viable with all that we've seen take place with the last election cycle, if you want to call it that. That's totally something that's on the table, I believe. You may not believe it, and that's fine. Let me know in the comments section what you think about it. Number five scenario, elections are canceled or postponed because of what? Well, the Ukraine war. Look at Zelensky, the so-called president of Ukraine. He is not the elected president. Those elections were canceled due to war. Look at Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. Um, in his situation and what's he's orchestrating, or his government is orchestrating, is power. They could remain in power as long as there's war. So perpetual war, or impending war, or an outbreak of war, can solidify or cancel an election cycle or cycles. Um, so it's something that definitely could be and is on the table, and it's something that there's a very high percentage here in our country that may very well happen. Another thing that could cause this is some type of 9/11 style attacks uh, in the USA, in various cities and various states that take place prior to the elections, um, that would cause the election cycle to be postponed or canceled. That's something very viable. If you look at what's going on with protests and all these orchestrated events that are going on, and now all these shootings that are taking place, coincidentally, over the weekend, there's been shootings in Michigan and Texas, and these are totally viable things that can break out in this country, let alone some type of planned, orchestrated terrorist attack by outside parties from this country. Um, and then C, another thing that would cause the upcoming elections to be canceled or postponed, is a pandemic. And with H5N1 breaking out now, and other countries taking steps already to bring back lockdowns and masks and social distancing and all this stuff they have experience with from the last pandemic, on what works, what doesn't work, how to enforce things. And if you remember, I think the biggest topic in Davos recently in January, whenever that was held, with all their meetings of the elite, was the biggest problem was control of information, and uh, you know what gets out there, what doesn't, what dissent is allowed to happen. So they have things in place for this next cycle that could squash or could put the kibosh on uh, dissenting opinions getting out there, and so therefore their narrative can be unhindered. So war breaking out, whether it's in the Ukraine, Middle East, here with Russia off our shores right now, war is A. B is 9/11 style attacks in the USA, and C is a pandemic or a combination thereof can prevent the election. So that's number five. Number six, possible election scenarios. Donald Trump wins the election. I was just discussing with a family member last night. They said Donald Trump's going to win, and he's going to put the kibosh on the war and stop all this nonsense, and everything's going to. So in other words, Donald Trump wins. We go back to normal, let's call it that. And America gets back on track and we move forward. That's in a lot of people's wheelhouse right now. So the outcome number 6 of Donald Trump wins, my scenarios depict this. Donald Trump wins number 6. Civil unrest breaks out in cities across the country. Way, way worse than in 2020. Number B, or letter B, the Democrat side does not accept the outcome and can cause A to happen as well. Democrats don't accept it, so that's B. Number C, letter C, the time period. So remember, if a president gets elected in November, he doesn't get sworn in until when? January of 2025. So that period from November to January, middle to the end of January, what could happen? Well, Joe Biden or whoever takes his place, if he gets sick or whatever, or gets replaced, is still the president. So if any of those scenarios that I mentioned, like a war or civil unrest or a pandemic or something like that breaks out after Donald Trump wins, they could impede the inauguration, let's put it that way. They could stop the inauguration from happening. So a war can start between those couple of months. We could get attacked by what I talked about, 9/11 style attacks in those time period. This new war or these attacks can be blamed on the new president, Donald Trump, and therefore the monkey be put on his back, and everything that the Democrats did to destroy the country, along with the Republicans as well, can be put onto his back and blamed on him. And their hands are, we're just trying to keep normalcy here. So that's something that I definitely think can happen. And then scenario number 7, I put that the Democrats win, whoever the candidate is, they win the election just like they won it in 2020. And we can do a whole nother video on how that could be orchestrated because they already have practice with it and we've already seen it. So the Democrats win, let's just say number 7, and they continue their plans with America, the destruction of America as we know it. Economic collapse continuing, inflation running out of control, which is all going to contribute to the economic collapse, the banking system having troubles, real estate, all these different things that stem from what has been taking place over the last 4 years. The influx of illegals into the country, draining the system, money being spent on needless and endless wars in the Ukraine and Israel, all of our resources being directed towards that rather than on American issues, infrastructure issues, problems with, our homeless and veterans and things like that. So all their continued processes to continue in number 7, and this economic collapse or the abolition of the old system of our government and a new digital system comes into place where they can track you better and they restructure cash and get rid of physical money, and everything goes to a digital system. So that can continue if they win. Dollar destruction of the dollar, the BRICS nations getting stronger. We see that happening now. Countries abandoning our dollar as the petrodollar. Again, war can prevail in Ukraine and the Middle East. Migrants can revolt in the U.S. Maybe their amount of money that they're receiving gets cut or somehow impeded, and they start revolting in the major cities where they are being placed by all these NGOs around the country. And then orchestrated crime with criminals being released back on the streets, light sentences or no sentences at all for committing capital offenses for crimes that they want to continue. So all these shootings in the cities and street takeovers and all this other activity from illegal migrant gangs robbing houses and abusing and raping and pillaging, all that will continue if the Democrats win, which is number 7, which is a highly likely scenario. So, um, and I want to make a note that there's a man by the name of Albert Pike. He was a 33-degree Freemason. If you go back and do some digging, you'll see that he predicted 3 world wars. And the first 2 world wars he predicted with uncanny accuracy. The Third World War he predicted as well. And this is all in the 1870s when he made these predictions. So one would say, as a 33-degree Freemason, if you know anything about that, incidentally, Donald Trump is a 33-degree Scottish Rites Freemason. You could do a little deep dive on him and see what the thought processes and the adherences and the allegiances of that high of a Freemason are. And many in our government today are Freemasons. May not all be 33-degree level, but many are high-ranking levels of Freemasons. And Freemasonry is rampant within the church, the clergy, in the counties and states, in government, throughout the United States. So you could do a little deep dive, if you will, on that. So just know Albert Pike was a 33-degree Freemason. He said this, and I quote, "The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati." So this agent of this Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way, he says, that Islam, the Muslim Arab world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Now, you tell me in the comment section if that scenario isn't being shaped and molded right now as we speak. So what did Albert Pike know about, first of all, about World War I, World War II, and World War III, that there were going to be 3 wars, predict the first 2 with uncanny accuracy, and lo and behold, the leading up to the third, and some may say we're already in the third, it just hasn't been announced officially, that situation is being shaped. So my thinking is, and the main issue I have with most people in America and in our country, that's why over the last several years I pulled out of politics and all this stuff, and I wanted to take a look from the outside. Why is it that we don't question, as Americans, the matrix that we're in? What do I mean by the matrix? Who really controls who we get to vote for? Think about it. Here we are, everybody's infighting Trump and Biden and fighting back and forth and waving their flags left, right, Republican, Democrat. Why is it that it seems to be the same families and the same people over the years that we get to vote for? Who is really placing those people, those puppets, I'll call them, out there, and who really is pulling the strings? And why are our choices between 2 old men? Where are all the other, of a nation of 330 million people? There's got to be some other younger candidates with great ideas, and just where are they? There's got to be people out there that are loyal to the Constitution and American values and morals and values that we say we have, the ones from the Bible, the moral law that we say we love and follow. who are these other qualified individuals that are not tied to any secret organizations like Freemasonry, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the Bilderbergs, the Council on Foreign Relations, that have no connections to that? Why are they not able to run? That are tied to big corporations or backed by certain lobbyists that lobby in our country. I'll give you an example now. There's lobbyists in our country for Israel that literally are tied to each and every politician that's out there that monitors what they say and what they do, and they won't get any money from that organization lest they say the right thing or toe the right line. That's why you see so many of our politicians all on the same page when it comes to, saying anything bad or good, or speaking their mind about how to solve certain problems that are going on around the world, because their funding might get cut off. And there's only a few that are not tied to these organizations that raise money in other ways. So who's really pulling the strings? And I'll end this video with, are we really free in this country? Are we really free right now in 2024? Are we really free? And is that freedom going to ring into 2025? And I'll close with the lyrics from My Country, 'Tis of Thee by Samuel Francis Smith, written in 1831. And the first stanza, most of us know. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountain side, let freedom ring. That's the first stanza. Liberty and freedom mentioned in the first stanza. Let freedom ring. 2. My native country thee, land of the noble free. Thy name I love thy rocks and rills, the woods and templed hills, my heart with rapture thrills, like that above. Stanza 3. Let music swell the breeze and ring from all the trees, sweet freedom's song. Freedom again. Freedom's mentioned in all three stanzas. Let mortal tongues awake, let all that breath partake. Let rocks their silence break, the sound prolong. Are we really free? Ask yourself that question. Thanks for joining me for this video. Anthony signing off. Take care. Stay ready.